Hello, everyone. Welcome to Westside Stories. Great to see everyone again. And I guess you're looking at me. I'm not seeing you, but this is the second episode of Westside Stories since we've kicked it up again. I say episode, I don't know what to call it. It's casual. It's hearing God's people share wonderful testimonies. And I am so excited about tonight because I have my good friends with me, Rich and Carrie Wenzo from Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we met Rich and Carrie when we first moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. And we moved to Raleigh in that year to get a job that was offered to me, as well as to work in a church that our mutual friends were pastoring, John and Joy Caveri at Garner Christian Fellowship. And we showed up on your doorstep in Garner, kind of depleted. And you all loved us to pieces. And immediately upon meeting Rich and Carrie, I knew they were the real thing. And they've got a genuine love for Jesus. They have given their lives to the building of the kingdom of God. And so glad to have you and to hear your story. Now, what prompted me to invite you was early this month, one of you wrote a post. I forget which one. Was you, Carrie?
It was both of us.
Both of you wrote a post, and you just briefly went over 2020 and what it was like for you. And it was an incredibly challenging year for you that was full of some really personal losses. And you went on in that post to communicate how God has brought you through that in many ways. And as soon as I read that post, I said, I want our people to hear it. It's an incredible story. The whole theme of this podcast is to hear incredible testimonies of real people. And I couldn't help but invite you on. So thank you for doing so.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
So Rich and Carrie, tell us a little bit about yourselves, a little brief testimony of your spiritual story and your family, and just get us up to date on who you are.
Sure thing. We'll be married 28 years in May.
Yep.
And we came from vastly different backgrounds. I grew up outside the church and got saved when I was 17. And Carrie grew up. Grew up outside Philadelphia. My wife was down in Dixie in Texas, and a pastor's kid all her life growing up. So walked with the Lord all her life, and the Lord got a hold of me at 17 and put me on a different path. I started going to college in Texas and met Carrie's brother, which is a great way to meet a bride. I'd recommend it. And we got to be friends, pen pals before the internet was born. We're that old, and we would write letters because phone calls were expensive. And we just got to be really good friends, started dating and married like 3 years later. So it's been great. We have 3 kids we're almost empty nesters. Our last one's hanging on, living here and going to community college, but our oldest is married to a pastor at our church who leads the young adult group, Emily and Jonathan. Emily's our daughter. And then my boys, Jake and Matt, are 22 and almost 19.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lord's been faithful the whole way through. We really enjoyed our times, cherished our times in Garner. Really unlike any other time in our lives, going to church with y'all and the people there. It's still the people we consider our closest friends in life. So thank God for that. And thank God for you.
Right.
So.
And how many years were you in Garner and serving at the church there?
We attended Garner from 2000 till, I'm not sure when I took on being an elder there, but I was probably an elder for 5 years. And then my job moved me to Charlotte. We decided to go with the job in 2012 to come to Charlotte. So
right.
Yeah.
And you are a pilot, an airline pilot. Worked for
I am.
Southwest.
I was a corporate pilot for a long time, and then I decided I had a midlife crisis. I turned 45 and decided I wanted to try airline flying. So I applied everywhere, and Southwest hired me, which is where I really wanted to be. And it's really great. It's you hear a lot about Southwest culture, and it's funny, man, when you go through orientation at Southwest, they talk about how they have a servant's heart and a warrior spirit and stuff. And you're like, it's almost like these people are believers. Yeah, they're not. the guy who started it was actually kind of a hard charger and partier and all that. But it is true. They hire people for their spirit there and their personalities, and they really want people that want to serve others. And so it really makes it a great place to work. So
It's always great to hear of a positive corporate culture like that. How were they in particular doing through these months? Are they hanging in there like the other airlines, or?
Been really challenging. They've managed not to partly because they offered leave. And so I, for example, took leave from Southwest for 2 years, and they're making like a partial payment of my salary, but I'm making about half of what I used to make. So I'll get to that later, but ordinarily that would seem really challenging. But the way last year went, it was like, I can do this. I know I can do this. So when the opportunity came up, I decided to take some time off and be around this girl some more. And yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we love your family, and we do also treasure those years we were able to relate and serve the Lord together. And I saw you firsthand loving on people without fanfare and genuinely demonstrating God's grace to people's lives. So certainly do appreciate the two of you. But this last year has been a year like no other for you. Why don't you share a little bit about what this year was like for you?
But you
Go
want to
ahead.
start that?
Well, I'll start, but I want to dominate this.
Okay.
It started December of 19, actually, just as it was rolling into 2020. And I started having what I recognized. I had them like 10 years prior. I started having these heart palpitations. And what was different this time was they were a lot stronger. I was pretty sure they were benign, that I wasn't having serious heart problems, but they were much more dramatic. They were kind of a skipped heartbeat, and it would give you like kind of a head rush, take your breath away, then make you feel really fatigued. And it would happen about 10 or 12 times an hour. So it was sort of debilitating. You couldn't, and then there came the anxiety with it, like, well, maybe it is something serious this time. So that started a whole journey in January where I started seeing cardiologists. They quickly figured out, we're not going to wrap this up in a couple of weeks. So you're going to be out of work for a little while. We're going to have to try some drugs and so forth. So that was really kind of sobering. You can't help as a man to have in your mind, like, all right, this is how this year is going to go. The Lord warns you not to do that. Like, don't say you'll go make this much money or go do this, because you don't know. But
right.
Once that rug gets pulled out, it really is sort of mentally tough on a man, I think, just realizing, oh shoot, I'm not going to provide like I thought I was. So it was kind of a long process there. When do you want to chime in?
Well, that went on for several months, and I remember specifically the night that we go to church on Monday nights. Our church meets on Sundays and Mondays, and so we usually go to the Monday night service. And we went in to a service, and I remember that my daughter had gone the day before and said, "Oh, it's a good sermon. It's about miracles." And I was like, man, we could use one. I thought, oh, we could really use one tonight. And so when I sat down to the service, I looked down and my sister had called me. And then I looked down at my phone, and his phone was also ringing. And I thought, that doesn't sound great. And I walked away. I just kind of stepped out of the service and found out that one of my nephews was being care flighted, and he actually passed away three days later.
Inside that week.
And
18 years old.
18 years old, and really was a challenging time for my family, who all loves the Lord. And it really brings you to a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And why and what happened. And so went through a journey of just kind of walking through the grief process and from afar, being in Charlotte, and my family's in Texas. And just 3 months later?
Yeah, just under 90 days later, we got another text in the middle of the night and our Carrie's brother and sister-in-law were texting to say that they had lost another one of their sons, same family.
Oh my.
So our oldest nephew in that branch of the tree, Taylor, passed away out on a jog. He was like the fittest guy in our family.
Yeah.
He was a sheriff's deputy in Illinois. Great guy, big heart,
About to be married, engaged to be
Wow.
married.
just
Wow.
just heartbreaking. And to say nothing of what Tommy and Jenner have gone through last year.
Yeah.
So,
This is your brother, Carrie.
Yes, this
And
is my brother.
and his wife, and they had three sons,
They had
and
three sons.
two passed away in the period of
Inside
3
of-
months.
That's
Yep.
right.
March.
Oh my.
That's exactly
into
right.
June.
The other one is up in
Quebec. He's
Yeah.
studying in university in Quebec.
and just got
Okay.
married as well.
Wow.
And actually got married the same week.
It was like July 4th weekend. Of course, none of us could get there because of COVID, including
Yeah.
his parents and grandparents. And
Wow.
it's a really strange year.
It was a difficult
just
season.
a year of steady loss,
Yeah.
and
That is just unfathomable. And I know, Carrie, your dad's been a pastor for many, many decades. Matter of fact, he's still pastoring, is he not? In his 70s or 80s?
He is actually working from home, and he probably takes 2 to 3 calls a day, several days a week, and still loves what he does. Just loves Jesus and loves helping people.
85 is
85
Yeah.
and still pastoring.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
your brother, who experienced the loss, is a pastor as well, is he not?
Yes.
At the same
he
church.
is. He's at the same church as my dad, and
Okay.
works there as well. And so they're working through that process, still grieving, but but healing, still grieving and healing at the same time, and learning what that looks like, for sure.
Wow. Unbelievable loss. And now you two shared in that post a little saying that you read off of a cup. What was that little statement?
This little Lego cup. We had to bring it.
You gave us this cup. I doubt will remember that, but
Donna.
It's got a lot of flowers, so it's more my wife doing that.
Yeah, that's all you get on the outside, and that's literally what happened. In the middle of all this heart stuff, I was drinking coffee one morning, talking to the Lord, going, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not down with it. And I noticed inside the lid in the rim, it says trust in God and do the next thing. And I'm like, okay. And in the bottom, it actually says pray big. And I remembered y'all because Donna gave us that, of course. And I literally went to Carrie with the mug and was like, all right, this is what we need to do. So it was this crazy journey with the heart stuff in the middle of all the other losses in the family. I had, in my mind, again, I'm trying to get back to work as quickly as I can to make money. And on disability, I was making less than half of what I normally make, and wasn't real excited about that. But there were just really no answers. They would try one medicine and nothing happened. And they, of course, did all the tests to confirm there was really nothing wrong with me. I was just having a skipped heartbeat, and they didn't know why. And I shared with you last week a little bit, Danny, that we started seeing this, like, all right, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll just do the next thing that's in front of us. And like the next thing was, well, we don't know what to do with the meds. So we're going to try to have you see a doctor about having an ablation, which, if you don't know, is they start at your femoral artery in your thigh and snake a tube up into your heart and start zapping the cells in your heart, trying to stop that electrical frequency from giving you the skipped heartbeat. It didn't sound great, but I was like, I don't really have any other options at this point. So I went and saw that doctor on a Thursday, and he was going to work on me on the following Tuesday. And that weekend, I got a call from my oldest friend from childhood, Lance, and he called and said, what are you up to? And just catching up. And I called him up real quickly. So this is what I'm up to. I'm about to have this procedure. He said, my brother-in-law just flew in from France yesterday. He teaches that internationally. Would you like to talk to Lauren? I'm like,
Wow.
sure. So,
Yeah.
so like an hour later, the guy called, and, you know, I didn't want to take his time. It was a weekend. I know he's a busy guy. And he's like, give me the 10-minute version of your heart problem you're having. And I told him, he goes, don't have this procedure. He said, the guy's never going to figure that out. He said, I go around and teach this and I wouldn't be able to figure you out. He said, I have people that have this event that you're having like 100 times an hour, and I'm dreaming of getting them to 10 or 12 like you're at. So he's not going to be able to fix it. He was like laughing, like, did the guy go to Harvard or MIT or something? I'm like, no, he's Oklahoma State or something. He's like, yeah, don't let that guy work on you. So I felt like, all right, well, that's the next thing. That's definitely the Lord. Have this world-renowned expert tell me not to do this, advise me not to do it. But yeah, so canceled that and went back to my cardiologist, added more time to my schedule, more time off of work. And yeah, they tried a whole nother set of meds and it did nothing. And they tried bumping up that med, and all of a sudden it worked in like 2 days time. It just completely stopped. So
Wow. So just a short period of time before you're going to get this procedure, God just set up this conversation with a world-renowned doctor. Amazing.
Yep.
And then through the modification of drugs, you've been clear.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. I haven't had any heart palpitations since late May. Late May, I got it cleared up. And through a whole nother series of events that I'm not sure I want to get into, except to say I had really bad vertigo this fall. I took that leave we talked about, and we were like, we're so excited. We went on this little vacation up in Maryland and Pennsylvania. We got to Virginia, saw some friends, and I got really sick, crazy vertigo, really dizzy. So
kind of fun flying an airplane with that condition, would it not?
Yeah, I was already out on
fun?
leave, but that would have been a disqualifier. I would be out had I stayed at work and not gone on leave. I would be out of work again on disability. So I was grateful the Lord let us into that leave too. So anyway, that's resolved too. I feel much better. I did some physical therapy. They never found anything wrong with me, but the doctor pulled me off of the heart meds, said maybe that's the vertigo, and the vertigo has not returned, and neither has the heart palpitations. So
wow. So trust God and do the next thing has been happening right now.
Yes.
It's been one thing after another.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
For him too, it literally has been every morning waking up and going, okay, well, this is what's in my path today. So this is what I've got to do, whether it be make one phone call or, try another med or whatever. It literally was a day by day process that was, what are you doing today, babe? Well, I'm going to do the next thing.
Supposed to call this guy and see what he thinks. Like, okay.
Yeah. And so it really became just our kind of our saying. And every time we would talk to somebody, it just feels like the Lord was allowed us to encourage them in that same thing as well. Just whatever you're going through, just wake up, pray, trust God, and just do the next thing.
Yeah. I always appreciated you too. You always had such a love for people, and you've poured into, I can think of different individuals that you poured into that I know of, but I know you continue to do that. Tell us a little bit more about what God has you doing in your church now, your local church, and the ministry that God has given you.
Go ahead, Carrie Sue.
Okay. I think Rich and I really have, even at Garner Christian Fellowship, it just seemed like the Lord gave us a heart for married couples or couples that were almost married or struggling in their marriage.
Or living together and struggling and not able to figure out why they're struggling.
Yeah, it just seems to be something that we both have been passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so I don't remember how we found out about it, but for some reason we got a phone call.
Yeah, we just got invited to check it out.
We got invited to become mentors to couples that are going through a class at our church. And you spend about 6 to 8 weeks with them on 6 to 7 topics that the class covers, and just spend time with them, getting to know them, and praying with them and working through some of the issues that couples have early on in marriage, especially communication. And I can honestly say that every time we've gone through it, it's just been such a, it just seems such like a divine appointment, not just for them, but for us as well.
Yeah.
And that we grow as a couple as we're doing that, just because we learn more and even more about communicating in our own marriage as you're loving on this couple as well.
It's a mirror too. You can't look into the other couple's life without looking into your own and go, okay, I need to tweak that a little bit before I tell you how to do it. There's always that aspect of a real relationship and being real with somebody about it.
One night we were doing this, we had to do a Zoom call with this couple, and we had to go, hey, we're in the middle of a fight. You got to give you got to give us 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was like a year ago.
Never forget that.
We'll meet in 20 minutes, but I got to.
And we worked it out, obviously, but it was just so funny because we had to be real with them and just go, hey, we've got this little issue we got to work out, and then we can get on with you.
Yeah. One fight a year, whether you need it or not. You two, we have always admired the two of you and the joy that you experience in your marriage relationship, and you guys are best friends, and I'm sure you're going to be used of God in a tremendous way in the days ahead. So 2020 was an incredible year of loss of two precious nephews from the same family, your health challenges, job challenges, and you've hung on to this statement of trusting in God and doing the next thing. What would you tell people if they're struggling or undergoing loss or grief? What would you say to anybody who's listening from what you've learned?
In thinking about this tonight, I thought there's a couple verses that always come to mind that kind of sum up the way last year went. That Proverbs 16:7, where we all know that one about in our hearts, in their hearts men plan their courses, but the Lord directs their steps. And that's a great way to look at it when you don't know where the path's going anymore. You said it, you had a plan, and then the Lord clearly redirected you. There's another quote by C.S. Lewis in one of his letters, and he talks about how we go through our lives and wish that, these interruptions and things wouldn't happen. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he talks about the trick is to not look at these interruptions as interruptions, because they're not interrupting your real life. You are living your real life, and those interruptions and redirections are exactly the day that God is bringing to you. And this real life that you're imagining is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. The only life you really have is the one that God brings to you every day. So that kind of stuff really rings true to me after you get lost without a map for a year, except that that the Lord's good and you're going to keep following him, but you don't know where exactly he's taking you.
Yeah.
How about you?
Very good.
I was thinking too that if anyone is listening that happens to go through tremendous loss, I don't think I can spell it out as well as I would even want to try to compare it to what my brother and sister-in-law are going through. But what I would say is that doing the next thing sometimes can be as simple as getting up and brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
And that if that's what you feel like you need to start at, that may be what the Lord has for you that day. And, just the simple task of getting up and being alive and functioning that day, that may be the Lord's will for you that day. And he may add one more task to that the next day. And so to be encouraged that even though that time is difficult and overwhelming, that he's going to put in front of you, a small task or even a big one, and he's going to help you through it. And he's going to see you through it no matter what it is.
Yeah. You used a phrase the last time we talked, Carrie, I think was along the lines, they are grieving as well as can be expected.
Yeah.
And as simple as that statement is, I thought it was profound.
Grieving well.
When you've experienced loss, grief is the healthy reaction to that, is the natural reaction. But the question is, are you grieving in a healthy manner and grieving well? And in God, we have the ability to grieve well because he's there with us. And that's, I think, such an important principle for all of us to come to grips with, because we will all suffer loss to one degree or another throughout our life. And we need to learn how to go through those losses well and grieving in God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another thing that really encouraged me this year, Danny, was reading Psalm 139 and being reminded of, we all know that one where David talks about God knitting us together in our mother's wombs. But there's so many in the bigger picture of that Psalm that David talks about the Lord hemming you in behind and before, and that he puts his hand on you. Like, so there are times where you feel stuck, like I can't improve my situation at all. The way I thought I was going to go is not an option anymore.
Yeah.
But in those times, just to realize, like, the Lord has you exactly, he's created that situation, like Lewis was talking about. It's not an inconvenience. It's something the Lord allowed. And so realize that he's got you right there and his hands on you. And and I mean, there's so many other encouraging parts of that Psalm in particular about, I can't get away from you. There's nowhere I can hide from you. Even if the darkness comes for me, the dark isn't dark to you. And just, again, putting all your hope in the Lord. And the fact that he says all the days of your life were written in the Lord's book before one of them came to pass. And I always looked at that before last year as like, well, I was born at a certain time and I'll die at a certain time. But something about going through last year made me realize, again, like every one of those days was appointed, not just the beginning and the end day. And he's here with me in this day, and he has a plan for me, and I just have to walk it out with him. It's not what I wanted to do today. It's not the way I would have drawn out that year or that day or week, but that's what I had to work with. And he's good, right? I mean, you're convinced that he's good, even if you don't get what he's doing right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you two for sharing your story. You surely are an example of faithfulness and loving God through the most challenging and difficult times. So I trust it'll be encouragement to anybody who's going to listen to this time. But I thought we could end if you could just pray and pray for anybody that might be listening if they've experienced loss, and pray that God would meet with them in a way that, in a similar way as he's met with you.
Amen. Let's do that.
Okay.
You want to start?
Sure. Lord, I just thank you. I thank you for anyone that's watching right now, whatever they're going through, whether it's loss of a loved one or a marriage that's going through a hard time, or just a relationship, or any type of struggle they're going through at all. Lord, I pray that they would know that you love them and that you're there for them, and that really it is as simple as trusting you and just doing the next thing. And we just bless whoever is watching this, Lord. I just pray you just meet them right where they're at.
Yes.
And we thank you, Lord. It doesn't matter where they're at. And just like Rich said, if they're in the darkest of dark places, God, you're there with them. And we just pray that they would reach out and know that you're present.
Yes,
Father, I just ask you for that same kind of faith that David expressed in Psalm 139 there, Lord, that even in those darkest times, that we're fully convinced that you have us exactly where you want us, that even if we can't move back or move forward, that your hand is upon us. And then, Lord, I just pray that a measure of faith over everyone listening, that they, even if they feel like they're stuck and they're not sure what they're supposed to do next, that they would just rest in you and realize that your hand is upon them. Yes, and that God, every day, not just the first and last, but every day that you've appointed for them, you're there and leading them through those days, God.
Yes, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich and Carrie. Appreciate your vulnerability and sharing your story with everybody. And I'm sure that many of us Canadians who are listening really appreciated the you-alls that you slipped in there. That did not go unnoticed.
I'm just glad we didn't. I'm just glad we were able to resolve our fight, and I didn't have to delay the podcast tonight, like we did with that couple. So.
There you go. God worked that out too. Awesome, guys.
Thank
Well, the
you for
Lord
the
bless
invite.
you.
Yep,
Bless
thanks.
you.
It was great.
We love
Bye
you
now.
guys.
Love
Bye
you.
now.
Bye.